So my fish room that's just behind the door in here is actually a room built inside of another much bigger room. It's built inside of this huge workshop on my in-laws' property. And we actually built this together in just about 6 weeks. And that's what this video is. This is a compilation of everything we did to get this building behind me ready for fish, from the grounds to the walls to everything inside of it. All of that is what you're gonna see in this video, from the very first wall going up to the last tank going in and out of my old studio. So I figured I'd just put everything together in this one big compilation for you guys to enjoy. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. You'll also get to see a lot of my old tanks that I had to tear down to move into here successfully. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. And I actually just came out with a whole tour of the studio in here. So after you finish this video, if you want to see what all of the tanks inside look like now and the new setups that I've done, you can go check that out, and I'll link that video down in the description and at the end of this video. But without further ado, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy the full build of my fish room. They're just essentially completely unwilling to work with us. I have 6 weeks to move all of my aquariums out of my studio. If you missed my last update, my landlord recently told me that I can't keep my aquariums here in my garage anymore. And if you want the full explanation of why and what's going on, I'll put a link to that video down in the description. The long and short of it is that I've got to get all of my aquariums out of my garage in 6 weeks. And that kind of left me with two options. Option one, tear down all the aquariums and rehome all of my fish and essentially give up on this channel. Option two is to find a new place where I can do what I'm doing, essentially a new fish room. And I'm going with option two, because there's no way that I want to give up on my passion for aquariums, fish, plants, shrimp, and for making videos to share with you guys. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for sharing your support with me after that first video. All of your comments were really, really nice, and it honestly inspired me to keep going and to make the best out of my situation. It's a little bit more complicated than just moving the aquariums to a new place, because we've decided to ultimately build a whole new studio to keep them in. So luckily for me, my in-laws live on a small farm and they have a big workshop out there. So the plan is that we're going to build a structure inside of the workshop, and we're going to turn that structure into the perfect fish room. We just have to get it done in 6 weeks or 42 days, and time is already ticking. But let's go out there. I'm really excited to show you guys the new space where we're going to be building this room. But first, we've got to run a quick errand. We need to go to Home Depot and get a ton of building materials, because the first thing that we need to do is build the walls. I'm Lucas, and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Let's get started. My wife Bridget and I met up with my in-laws, Kelly and Whitney, at Home Depot to pick up supplies. We bought a huge amount of wood. We got 60 2x4x8s for the studs, and I think 8 2x4x12s for the bottom and the top of the walls. After loading all of this into Kelly's truck, we got back on the road and headed off to the farm. So we just got done at Home Depot. We loaded up a ton of wood, and now we're taking it to where we're building the studio. We got a whole bunch of wood today to start setting up the studs and to start building walls. And we're about to build one wall, at least one wall today. But I'm really excited to show you guys the space where we're going to be building the studio. The project is really getting started, and I'm super excited. Welcome to the new studio. Come on in. So this is the new space. This is where we're going to be building the studio. You can see there's already one wall on the ground right here beneath me. And that's because this is actually the next day. We built this wall last night after getting here, and unloading all of the lumber and everything. We were kind of getting our bearings and troubleshooting a couple things about this project, and then we ended up building this wall. And we had a bit of like a good family time together, messing around and putting this together. But you know, the first step in any project takes a little bit of troubleshooting and that kind of thing. You've always got to get your bearings. And my wife and I, we're not very big like DIY type people, but luckily her parents, my in-laws, Kelly and Whitney, totally are. I'm excited to introduce you guys to some of the people that are helping me with this. And when I say helping, I honestly mean taking charge of. Kelly and Whitney are really good DIY type people, and my wife and I really are not. So I'm much more of a grunt in this situation. So hopefully I'll be able to introduce you guys to Kelly today. But let me give you a little bit of a closer look at the space. And it is a little bit difficult to get good lighting in here. It is raining outside, so I'm not opening the garage doors. But you can see we're working off of these 4 posts. There's one there, and then the ones that are attached to this wall. So Kelly will hopefully give you guys more details when we talk to him, but we're going to be building, 4 walls, or I guess 3 walls, maybe 4 walls. We're deciding right now if we want to leave any space between the wall of the shop here and the wall of the actual studio, because we might want a little bit of airflow in this area. But I do have a task that I need to do today, and that is to finish this wall. We've got these kind of cross pieces here that are, I'm not entirely sure what they're called. Again, I'm not a DIY expert, so I'm sure there's some of you watching right now who know way more about this kind of construction than I do. But basically, I have to make a bunch of these today with a power tool saw. I'm not sure exactly which one. And I need to use a palm nailer. I know the name of that one. We used it last night to build a bunch of these and kind of put them on either side here, kind of offset like this. I'll nail them in so that we're creating the structure of the first wall. So hopefully I'll be able to finish the first wall today. That's the goal. Personal protective gear is important. So I've started laying these out. You can see I'm offsetting them like I talked about before, but I'm gonna attach these with the palm nailer. It's really cool, let me show you. So basically all I do is put a nail in this thing right here. And then this will be a little hard because this other board is here, but you can just get in, put it in your palm like this. And it's super loud, so I'm gonna get some ear protection. But I'm just gonna go through and do that for all of these boards across this whole thing. I'm gonna do 3 nails for each though. All right, mission accomplished. I did it. Pretty simple task, but it feels good to be doing it. So that's all that I was tasked with for today. So there might be more projects to be done today. I'm not totally sure. I gotta find Kelly. And I wanna introduce you guys to him anyway. So see if I can track him down. So this is Kelly. Kelly is the foreman, would you say, of this project?
I'm definitely an employee.
An employee.
I think the foreman's in the house doing all the research. But...
Sure. Well, I definitely feel like an employee doing this. Well, yeah, do you want to show us around? I'll take the camera, follow you around. You can
okay.
talk through what you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'll say now, you can see we're inside of a shop. We're inside of a four bay shop, metal shop that's uninsulated, unheated. And so that presents a little bit of a challenge building a room inside of the shop. What we're realizing is there are some needs to waterproof the interior, but make sure the dew point of the room itself doesn't create a moisture, a condensation for the insulation, because we want to try to insulate the room too, so that it's not just constantly trying to keep the room heated. What we have here is, in one of the bays, the former owners built a loft. These posts are framing this loft, holding it up. And it made sense to just go ahead and build the room using these posts, and then the loft itself as the ceiling rafters, where it'll be 10 feet high. So we've got a good uh, um, bit of cubic foot of air to kind of deal with some of that moisture issue along the way. So we're going to construct, we've already started a little bit constructing framing walls. We'll put 4 walls up, frame those, and then we'll have a ceiling on top of that. Now, what we're dealing with right now is trying to figure out best materials. And I'm not the researcher on this. I'm not the supervisor or the designer.
Yeah, you're the foreman, but you're not the project manager.
There you go.
You say?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good analysis. Our
Okay.
project manager is doing all the research down there. And it looks like we'll probably end up with one of 3 products. We're leaning towards concrete, a cement board. It's not waterproof like a FRP or a PVC, but we can make it pretty close to waterproof, with an epoxy seal. And then behind it, there'll be a vapor barrier, poly vapor barrier. And then we're trying to figure out, will we be able to put insulation behind that? Or would that create a condensation dew point along the way? So those are kind of the materials we're thinking about. Obviously, we haven't landed on it. You'll see that in process, I'm sure, along the way. It's a little more expensive. What we know is if we used standard drywall on the interior wall, probably no way that we could seal that in such a way that that drywall would hold up over time with moisture of anywhere from, if we mitigate the humidity and get it down to say 40 or 50%, even that at a constant rate is probably going to disintegrate that drywall. That gypsum board is just going to start to crumble over time and create probably unhealthy environment for humans, especially with black mold or anything else. So we'll put a pretty large exhaust fan in, or somehow, I don't know what size, but we're going to measure out the cubic feet of air that we need to move. We'll be heating the room for humans as well as the fish. Probably, I'm assuming you'll use heat tank heaters.
Well, we were thinking, right, that we would heat the whole room,
Mhm.
which would hopefully reduce the humidity overall, because if we're heating the whole room and not the individual tanks,
Right.
then that will cut down on the evaporation. So, Lucas, from the future here, at this point, Kelly and I start talking about how we're going to heat the tanks in the space. And I'm curious what you guys think about this, because I was thinking about heating the whole space rather than individual tanks, and that would be more efficient and lead to less evaporation, because we are a little bit concerned about humidity in the room and how we're going to manage that. And I looked into this a little bit more, and it actually seems like heating the tanks individually and then keeping the temperature of the room a little bit lower, maybe at like 65 degrees, and then having the tanks in that like 72 to 76 range, depending on the fish and that kind of thing, will actually lead to less evaporation, basically due to the air temperature being lower. And I thought it was going to be better for evaporation if everything was at the same temperature. But based on our research, that's not true. And we're also thinking about having like an exhaust fan, but not going too quickly, because the idea is that if the fan is drying out the air and just removing the humidity, the tanks will evaporate more to kind of compensate, since the air will be sucking more moisture out of the tanks. So it's a kind of interesting problem. I think what we're going to have to do, and what we've decided to do, at this point is we are going to have the walls pretty moisture resistant, and then adjust the fan, adjust the temperature of the room, and probably not adjust the tanks too much, but kind of use those two variables, the fan and the temperature of the room, to get the humidity into the level that we want. And I think we're shooting for like 40 to 50% ideally. And you're probably thinking, well, why don't you just put lids on all the aquariums? And we're also thinking about that. We're thinking about making some plastic lids that I could basically put on the aquariums whenever I'm not there, kind of overnight, that sort of thing. So if you have any thoughts about like the best ways to manage humidity outside of the lids, because we're already thinking about that, let me know down in the comments. All right, back to Kelly. So we're obviously still kind of in the planning and figuring out all of this, the logistics phase. So if you guys have any advice for us, let us know down in the comments. We're information gathering right now.
If you've built a room for fish or jacuzzis inside of a metal room, we're not going to use this exterior wall, but we're going to build the room in here, and you've insulated it, we'd love to know. Because so far, we can't find anybody who's done that, who's got results of, this is what worked or this is what didn't work. We'll let you know after we do it.
Yeah.
Keep up with us for the next year or two after we get this done, and we'll tell you, hey, guess what? No moisture issue. Or turns out things are... So definitely tell us. But I will say this, it's going to be a little expensive. So... support this guy.
So all of the donations that you guys have been giving and maybe will give if you feel so inclined are going to setting up this project and trying to save the channel. So thank you so much to those of you who have donated or bought merch or anything like that. It means a whole lot to me and to us to be able to do this project. So thank you guys so much. And you can, check out the website, get yourself a t-shirt. We'll put a link to the website right here and in the description. So check that out if you want to support what we're doing. And thank you guys.
Thanks.
So tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. We're going to build more walls. So
more walls. So I'm going to work on some electrical today.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll see you guys in the next one. It has been a crazy week. We've gotten so much done on the fish room build, and I'm really excited to show you guys. If you're new to the channel, basically I have 6 weeks or 42 days to build a fish room from scratch. And that time has been ticking away quickly. I'm filming this intro after all of the footage that I'm about to show you. But as of the beginning of what you're about to see, we have 28 days left to finish the project. But without further ado, let's go back out to the farm and into the workshop where we are building the new fish room. I'm Lucas and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. So back here out at the farm, the new studio is in there. This is the big shop that we've been talking about. But it is a misty morning. We're ready to do some work. So as you can see, the first wall is officially up.
I'm roasting like a Christmas ham.
It is a little warm in here, but this is Bridget. Bridget is my wife. We're definitely going to use that in the video. But the first wall, Bridget, you haven't seen the first wall yet. What do you think?
That's incredible. I can't believe you guys did this.
Yeah, do you see we built the smaller wall up top too?
Yeah.
So we're calling that the pony wall.
Okay.
But I just wanted to show you guys this too, because we've been building around these posts, right? But the people who installed them in the first place didn't do a great job of doing so. So I don't know if you can see this here, but these posts are both kind of slightly turned. So we've had to essentially build out the post and kind of shim them so that we can get the wall aligned properly. But this was the hardest wall because these posts were so screwed up. But now that we have this one in place, it should be a little bit easier to build the rest of the walls. So that's what we're gonna do today. Bridget, are you excited?
Yes.
Super excited?
Super excited.
Gonna build some walls?
Gonna build some walls. Kelly!
Good morning, Kelly.
Ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it. We started prepping to attach the wall and cut the wood to size.
Work hard, not smart.
We began measuring and assembling the second wall. We tried to be as precise as possible, but that's easier said than done.
Don't tell my mom. He got an inch too short.
She'll never know.
The boss that's here.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
I don't know who they're talking about.
You all right? We added the central braces, then started putting the pony wall into place. We're using these smaller walls as an extension to make the ceiling 10 feet tall. Building these pony wall extensions is cheaper than buying 10-foot boards for the studs. We just have to be really precise while making the walls, otherwise the studs that we're extending with the pony walls will be slightly off, which will make attaching the backing more difficult in the next steps. After fitting the pony wall, we took the whole thing down so that we could add the OSB backing. This is when we found out how important it is to have the studs aligned correctly. So we've run into a slight problem with our construction. You can see our studs are kind of slightly offset here. So it's making adding the plywood backing a little bit difficult because the board comes kind of right to the edge of this stud. You can see it's properly placed on this one or vice versa maybe. So Bridget is measuring right now because we're gonna do like a 1x1 piece, 2x2 piece to properly set this up. I was obviously a little confused here. I'm learning a lot as I go, but basically we just had to add an extra 2x4 so that we could attach the backing properly. We fixed up our stud and started adding the OSB backing. Those purple lines that you see are a chalk line that we're adding so that we can keep track of where the studs are as we cover them. As we were adding the OSB, our project manager Whitney joined us. Whitney is the brain behind this whole operation and is doing all the research and problem solving behind the scenes. Kelly, Bridget, and I are really just executing her vision. So check it out, the second wall is up and we put this backing on it here before putting it up because this one is maybe an inch gap between this wall and the shop wall, and putting it on now is just gonna be easier. We'll insulate this one from the inside, and then all of the other walls, like this wall here, we're going to put the backing on after we set up like the insulation and everything. And I think we've decided that we're going to be using a product called Den Shield on top of the insulation. So it'll be like insulation and then Den Shield and then maybe like a coating after that. Our ideas of like exactly the construction of like the interior of the walls, not just the framing, which is what we're doing now, are kind of evolving as we go. But we're about to start building the next wall, the third wall. So it's exciting. We just measured and cut these boards and we cut all of the studs. So now it's my job to kind of line up all of this stuff before we nail it together. One thing you've got to do with all of these boards when you're building walls like this that I've learned is you have to make sure that they're all kind of curving in the same direction, because all of these boards have a kind of natural curve. So it's kind of impossible for me to show you guys exactly, but this one is curving like slightly off into that direction. And I can tell that just by looking like straight down the board itself. So I'm gonna go through, check all of these and just make sure they're going in the same direction. So now we just gotta nail it all together. And this wall is also going to have a door in it. So I'm going to be learning a little bit of how to frame doors properly in walls like this. So that should be interesting. I'm not filming everything that we're doing, so hopefully you guys are getting a good idea of what's happening here. But let me know if you guys have any specific questions about anything that we're doing in this build. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability down in the comments, or I'll bring in Kelly or Whitney to help me answer those. So let me know. But yeah, doing the doors next. Making the door frames was pretty straightforward. Basically, we reinforced the frame with extra studs called jack and king studs and made the frame 2 inches wider than the width of the door. Then we started maneuvering the third wall into place. Bo, how are you doing today?
What is it called?
You look terrified. So we finished the first door. Check it out. Standing in the door frame right now. So this wall is 90% done after this. We just have to do the kind of center bracing and then the extra little wall up top there. So 3 out of 4 walls done. We're feeling good. But by the way, guys, if you like the sweaters that we're wearing right now, you can find those on my website. Here's a link above us, terracottaaquarium.com. But all of the sales of merch and all of the donations on the website are going to help build this amazing project. So thank you guys so much for those of you who have donated. And if you're considering it, preemptive thank you. But honestly, watching and following along is more than enough. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
But Bridget, you also have something exciting going on in your life.
Oh,
right?
yes. I was inspired by Lucas starting his merch, and I made a little Etsy shop. It's
We'll put a
called
link.
Digital Bridget Design on Etsy. It's a couple of my t-shirts. I like to draw and make illustrations, so if you want to check that out, that'd be cool too.
Yeah. If you guys have seen, any of the art in my fish room, I'll put some pictures of it. That's all Bridget. So if you want to support another artist, check out her Etsy shop.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right. Fourth wall. Well, we're going to work on the fourth wall.
It's behind you.
Yeah. All right. Good job, Bridget.
Nice.
Building the fourth wall was pretty much the same as the third wall. We just went with a slightly wider door because this will be the front door, and we want to be sure that we can move the largest aquariums through it. We also got Andrew to help us build the pony wall.
Hey, this is my sister Bridget, and we sort of architected this whole thing. We drew up the plans, and we've sort of been directing the building process together. So we're kind of behind the scenes of everything.
Project manager, foreman.
Yeah.
You
so,
might recognize us.
Yeah.
Wow. So Kelly and I just wanted to show you guys what we're doing to the bottom of the walls here. So Kelly, do you want to
So basically
explain?
Yeah, let me grab this so we can show you. It comes in a roll, and it's basically a foam that keeps even though we're using pressure treated boards, which will last longer, we're gonna put a foam barrier down below it. It just glues on. We used a liquid nails Loctite to glue it on, hold it in place while we're moving the door around. And then that gives a little bit of an air barrier so that your board's not soaking up moisture from the slab, because it has a tendency to do that, even though it's pressure treated. So it'll just last longer. The other part that is worth mentioning is when we put the OSB, or if you're using plywood or whatever you're framing on the inside of the wall, so we'll be using Den Shield because it's going to be a lot of humidity, but the back wall will be OSB. OSB tends to wick moisture more than plywood, so the OSB will cut, we didn't show this on the other video, but we'll cut it so that it's 1/4 of an inch off the ground. Otherwise, it may wick moisture out of the cement too, just because your slab is going to have moisture from the cold condensation.
Yeah, and I'll show you guys the OSB.
It's cheaper than plywood. That's why we're using it.
I think I showed you previously in the video us setting up this wall here, but the kind of backing behind, that's the OSB. And what is OSB? Do we know?
Yeah, so plywood is laminated sheets of wood, so they're like all sheets laid on top of sheets glued together. OSB is basically chips. You can see it. It's not sheets. It's chips that are glued together. So it's not as sturdy. It's not as strong as you're going to get from plywood. But we don't need strength. We just need coverage on the back wall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be insulation in here. We'll show you all that when we get it too. I think we're using a rock wool insulation, which is better for moisture issues than fiberglass.
Yeah, and we're getting our delivery of insulation stuff today.
Some of it today, yeah.
But I think insulating will be in the next episode. So we'll be sure to show you guys all of that really thoroughly when we get there.
And if you're in New England, we're sorry, but the Seahawks won the Super Bowl.
Okay. Dividing the audience, Kelly.
I mean, it was a good game. We appreciated you showing up.
What is this?
Never gonna beat the Patriots that way. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
So the walls are done.
The walls are
The
done.
walls are done.
The walls are done. The walls are done. The walls are done. Am I throwing screws?
Yeah.
So all of the footage in this video, getting all of these walls done, took about a week. So time is ticking down steadily,
Yeah.
but we're making really good progress. And next is going to be the insulation.
Probably insulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got a friend of mine is coming to do electrical. We'll wire the electrical, the outlets, the lights, the heater. And we'll tell you about the heater we're getting. We'll tell you about the exhaust fan we're getting later.
Yeah.
But I've got a guy that's coming to put in a dedicated 240 volt amp, or 240 volt 20 amp circuit on our panel. We've got room, but you do kind of want a dedicated amp or circuit for your heater, just in case it got overheated and it blew. You don't want all your tanks getting cold overnight. That'd be terrible.
That would be awful.
Yeah.
But we'll show you guys all of that in the next episode.
Yeah.
I guess. So.
Or something.
Yeah. Exciting. How's it going, Kelly?
Good. It's exhausting.
It is a completely crazy color. It is bright pink.
What did we learn today?
To read directions.
Yeah. Who's supposed to read them?
Ellie.
Yeah.
We have gotten so much done on the new studio build. I can't wait to show you. Last we left off, we had just finished framing the walls, and we had about 21 days left to finish the build. In this video, we're going to get a lot done, all the way from insulating the walls to giving them a final paint job. I'm Lucas, and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. So here we are back at the work site for the studio, and as you can see, it's progressed quite a bit since you last saw it. We're starting on the insulation today. So Kelly, do you want to?
Oh, hello.
Here's Kelly. You all know him, you all love him. He's going to tell you guys about the insulation, maybe a bit about the Den shields.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of give us an update.
Absolutely. I guess what we haven't covered yet is we've secured the wall frames to the cement slab. And they're of course secured to each other and the top. So we're not gonna have a lot of play in the walls, obviously. Those are things you wanna do. I think there's 2 or 3 different ways you can secure it to the slabs. We did a masonry bit into the slab and then drove down long nails that twist and lock it into place.
Here's one. And you were saying that they shoot these into the ground like
No, you drill it in and then you hammer these, they're basically about 4 inches long, hammer them in and they twist and bend a little bit and lock into the cement. The other way that you're talking about, you can buy, there's a tool that shoots a 22 caliber shell and it shoots the nail into the cement rather than drilling it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we didn't have that available, and the guy that we're dealing with, Shaw, shout out to Shaw, brought his tools over, helped me do that. Well, let's talk about insulation.
Yeah.
You asked about
So we've got a bunch of it over here. You said this is rock wool?
This is called rock wool insulation. So this stuff is better for moisture issues than fiberglass. You don't want to use fiberglass if you're worried at all about having moisture in your walls or your ceiling, because it will not air out well. This is more resistant to the water. But if you take a look up here, we've got some in place.
And it's just kind of shoved in there, huh?
Yep, you get it tight. You measure it so you're tight on the width and just kind of put it in place and it just holds there. You want it up against the ceiling. So you see that on this end toward me, but on that far end, it's a little pushed up. So we'll probably pull it down a little bit. Gravity's going to be in our favor eventually anyway. It'll all come down. And that's the project today. Getting this, probably the goal will be to get the ceiling in place, the insulation in the ceiling, and then maybe even start on the din shield. We've mentioned the researcher, design consultant, not architect so much, but, and I'm just the foreman, but Whitney is the researcher. So she researched the insulation, and because we have to cut it, you see how thick it is, right? So you don't want to use a little carpet knife or razor blade. You want to use a bread knife.
Interesting.
And so we have a new bread knife for the shop.
Wow. The bread knife worked really well to cut the insulation and was pretty satisfying to use. Once we got the insulation up to the ceiling, it was a little harder to wedge in than we thought. We ended up attaching some wires to hold it in place. Once we did this, it was pretty simple to cover the ceiling with the rock wool. The next step was to add the den shield. Back to Kelly to tell us a little bit more about it.
I think at one point, very early on, we were looking at 3 different products and with a poly barrier. So we were looking at cement board with a poly barrier. I think we were looking at FRP and PVC. And what we ended up with was din shield without a poly barrier. I can tell you why. Let's take a look at the din shield, what these look like. So they look like drywall or even cement board.
Oh.
They're heavier than drywall. They're lighter than cement board, so it's going to be easier to work with than cement board, but a little bit harder to work with than regular drywall, just because of the weight of it, working over our heads, 10-foot ceiling, that sort of thing. There's 2 sides. Den shield very helpfly indicates which one. The gray goes toward the inside wall. This is your water protection, your where we're going to get the best seal. And this goes toward the exterior of the wall.
Okay, interesting.
The reason we're not doing vapor barrier is that we would, if we had a vapor barrier on the back and a vapor barrier on the front, we essentially create a pocket in this board for humidity. The dew point particularly could be within this, and you'd have water buildup in here that probably wouldn't dry very well, wouldn't be able to air out. So our goal is going to be to get this all in place, taped, sealed. We're going to seal it with a red guard, which you'd use in a bathroom. Essentially trying to create an entire moisture barrier on the inside. We're going to seal our outlets. Every puncture of this is going to get sealed. Every screw is going to get sealed. The lighting that we put in, when we put it in, we'll seal that as well. So essentially what we're trying to do is create this little bubble where no moisture can get to the walls.
The den shield was pretty heavy. We basically had to get 3 people up on ladders, 2 holding the den shield, and the third trying to hold it while drilling it into the proper place. It was a huge pain, and getting the ceiling covered was one of the hardest parts of the build so far. So it's actually a few days later now. Bridget and I went on like a little weekend vacation, and while we were gone, Kelly and Whitney and Andrew did so much in here.
Valentine's present. So we put insulation. I spent the day putting rock wool up insulation in here, which turns out is also a great fire retardant. So should there ever be an issue, I can't imagine the fire would start in the aquariums, but
unlikely.
Should there be a fire in the shop or something, it really helps insulate and protect against spread of fire in rooms. So anyway, so we got rock wool behind here. We put all that in, and then Whitney and I came out and we put the den shield up all along this wall. Whitney has taped it all, used acoustical sealant on most of the seams and any gaps. It's a flexible sealant. It's not a glue. And what it does is it provides another sort of barrier blocks, vapor block along those cracks. We also put it along the back of the studs at the top and the bottom, so that everywhere there's a potential gap along the way, we're sort of mitigating that along the way. So
cool.
Then she's also sealed those and she's put tape up. Yesterday, Andrew and I, he came out, my 22-year-old son came out, we put up these boards. He got to do a lot of the putting in the screws. Obviously, we've sealed it again, the cracks along the way. We've wired everything, run the wire for it all, I should say. So the heater's box is sitting there and ready to go in once we get that sheet of drywall in. All the outlets are in, all the switch plates, not switch plates, but the switch boxes are in. We've got an overhead switch box, which we will have a plug in for some, what do we got? Track lighting.
Yeah, is the plan.
Yeah, and then we'll just screw that in. So again, one of the goals, once we get all this den shield, which has a vapor barrier on the inside, is to seal it all with acoustical sealing, seal all the gaps as best we can. Any screw holes we've made, we make mistakes. And then we also have a product called Red Guard. We'll show you that when we get to it, but that's gonna be painted over the entire thing, so it's another vapor barrier before we end up painting. So you'll get to see all of that.
Cool. So hopefully we're going to finish putting up all of the den shield in the next couple of days, hopefully a lot today. But before we get started, I want to do one other thing. I want to do a little bit more water testing. So I know this is kind of a strange camera angle. I'm kind of half in my car. I'm keeping the camera dry underneath the kind of hatchback part of my car. But I've got some water testing I want to do. I've got this jug to kind of collect the water. But we're on a well here, and I've been waiting for this test to come in the mail. It took a little longer than I expected. So I have tested the water just for TDS with this TDS meter, which I'll do again just to show you guys. And it was pretty reasonable. It was like 70 to 90, something like that. So I think the water is going to be fine. I also tested the pH, and it was just a little bit above 7. So it's looking pretty good for aquariums, honestly. But the reason I got this test here is that there was a little bit concerned there might be like a high iron content from the well water. And I can test iron with this little test. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm also just gonna test the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate just to be sure. But yeah, fingers crossed that we don't have too much iron, but we'll kind of see what this test reveals. So for those of you who aren't aware of what TDS is, this is basically just measuring the total dissolved solids that are in the water. So this is just like all different types of minerals. And you can see, I'm not sure there, you can see that we're getting 65. So not a whole lot of minerals. So if we did have a big iron problem, this should be a lot higher. But I just want to test it anyway, just to be sure. I've got these test strips here, these kind of 9-in-1. These test for like all different types of minerals in the water. So this is just going to be good to get a nice idea of everything that's going on. So these test strips are pretty straightforward. I'm just supposed to immerse it for 2 seconds, and then I can read most of the parameters within 15. So you can see what we got. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that. Iron and copper, which are important to look at, are 0. So that's really good. That's what I was most concerned about. Chlorine, it looks like there is 0 as well, which would be expected because this is well water. Total alkalinity is really low. KH is also super low. And then general hardness is really, really low, pretty much at 0. So that is a little bit concerning for shrimp. I think I'm going to potentially have to remineralize some water for them when I get here. So that's good to know because I can prepare for that. So now I'm just going to test the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate, and I don't really expect to see anything on these, but it's just going to be good to test just to be sure that there isn't some weird ammonia or something just in the water supply. Okay, so the test is done. So we've got the ammonia test, nitrite test, and the nitrate test. And I've got the little key here. But as you can see, we're pretty much reading 0 on everything. If anything, there's maybe the tiniest bit of nitrate. So I think the water's good to go. Make sure you guys let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you think I should be testing for. I'm pretty sure that the well water came back negative on the coliform bacteria test, so we should be good to go there. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if you think there's anything else I should be aware of. After water testing, I went back inside and got to work setting up more den shield. We put up the largest pieces, then started measuring and cutting the smaller ones. To cut the smaller pieces, we clamped them to a couple of boards and used a razor blade to score them along a straight edge. This let us easily snap them to size. Finishing the walls was much easier than doing the ceiling. Between Bridget, Kelly, Andrew, and I, it really didn't take us too long.
Hi, Bridget.
Kel?
No, let's not turn it off. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Lucas. How you doing?
Good.
Good. We're gonna do a little tour. An improper. Do I have a little? Never mind. Let's come inside. This is the door. Oh, look, there's the other door. What's going on over here?
Here's one more.
Oh, what's on this side?
There's another
Lucas.
wall.
More walls.
What's this one?
There's another wall.
Oh my goodness. 4 walls and a ceiling.
We did it. We did it.
It's so exciting to have 4 finished walls now. It actually feels like a place, where I'm going to move my aquariums rather than just a bunch of wood kind of attached to the ground and together. So really exciting. But the next thing we're going to do is some mudding. So Bridget, what did we just do?
We just taped up all of our seams with this tape. I don't know what it's called.
Seam tape.
Seam tape. And now we're going to mix our mud, which is called thin set. And we want it to be like the consistency of peanut butter.
Is all that right?
That's right, cement board tape. That's what it's called officially. Fiber tape. I'm sure there's different brands.
I'm excited to mix it.
We've got this awesome tool here. Look at this drill. It's awesome. You got this, Bridget.
Yahoo! This is fun. Woo! I have an invasive thought. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It's like I really want to eat
Yummy, look at the beaters.
So Bridget, why do we mud?
it. Because we want to seal everything in, make everything smooth, because after we sand it over and it's all dry, we'll paint over it. I'll come back for that. I just kind of have a lot.
So you're just kind of marking out where you're going to smooth?
Yeah. I'm just getting all these screws, and then I'll go back in and smooth them out.
Nice. Looks pretty satisfying.
Yeah. It's like painting.
Beautiful. So it's been a couple of days and we finished the mudding. It was a bit of a pain because after doing all of that mudding, we had to go back and sand down everything. But it's looking really good. Everything is nice and smooth in here. And it took a couple of days, so I'm really glad that we are done with that process. Luckily, Kelly and Bridget did most of the sanding, so it was good for me. But right now we are in process of setting up the exhaust fan that's up there, just out of frame. And we've also got a heater set up and we're setting up an intake, basically. So we're getting all of the heating and air circulation set up right now. There's Kelly up in the exhaust fan. How's it going, Kelly?
Good. It's exhausting.
Exhausting, perfect. Down here below my tripod, that is going to be the intake, and Whitney has set up something pretty cool. So we're on the outer wall now of the fish room. You can see some of the insulation we've got already set up back here, but this is the kind of air intake. So it's just kind of a static thing. It's not mechanically doing anything, but air is gonna be, oh, hi Bo. This will be the main place where air kind of comes into the room. So since it is a shop, Whitney has engineered this kind of filter so that if Kelly or anyone is doing any like woodworking and there's a bunch of sawdust going into the air, we'll have this here and it's going to stop most of like that debris coming in. It's kind of like a pre-filter for like an aquarium filter, honestly. So we can have that, it fits just like that, nice and easy. And if we find that it's getting too cold at any point in the room from, you know, just like being winter or something, we've also got this little lid that we can put on to kind of restrict the airflow. It'll still come in through like underneath doors and that kind of thing. But if it's getting too cold from too much air coming in, we can put that on. And this isn't too much to look at yet, but this is the heater. And it should keep the room, we're talking about maybe like 68 degrees, something like that. So it'll be a little bit below the tanks to kind of help with evaporation, is our goal. But it's gonna have kind of an internal mechanism where it will keep that 68-ish degrees pretty consistently. So between those three pieces, we should have a pretty solid, consistent temperature in here. It's so crazy though, that this is really turning into an actual room. It's getting hard to show the full scale of it to you guys on camera because it's a little cramped inside. I don't have a wide angle lens. And then being in the shop out here, it's a little bit hard to show you guys, you know, the outside of it. So I'll try to get some good B-roll and that kind of thing to actually show what it's looking like from the outside. So I'll show that to you now, maybe as I'm talking. But the next thing that we're going to do is red guard on the inside. And I'll show you guys that as we get there. But red guard is basically like a liquid rubber. So we have to go over and paint that over all of the kind of screw points on the interior wall. Anywhere where we have like punctured the vapor barrier of the den shield, we have to cover with that liquid rubber. Otherwise, it kind of ruins the whole thing and it'll let moisture get inside of the wall and into the insulation, which is what we don't want because that will ruin the long-term structure, essentially. But I'll show you guys exactly how that process is going to work. But it's pretty exciting because that is the last step, the last thing that we have to do before we can actually paint the interior, which is gonna feel crazy to get that far. So this is the red guard, the liquid rubber, and it is a completely crazy color. It is bright pink. Super awesome to be putting this on the wall. It's really easy to see where you paint it. But this is basically just going to seal all of the holes that we've made in the den shield. So basically anywhere that there's like a screw hole or a big seam that we've mudded, that's where I'm gonna be putting the red guard. So while I've been doing the red guard, Kelly and Whitney have been out here finishing up the OSB and also doing some spray foam. Is that right?
Yeah, well, gonna finish up the OSB in a minute. Well, not finish it, but we're gonna put up full sheets. But Whitney did all the spray foam, and what she did to the exterior walls, she went around all of the exposed outlets, the vents, the exhaust, the heater,
So
and
like
put
down
in,
here?
yeah. It's not pretty, but it seals it. And you don't need to do this on a standard room. I mean, anybody who's watching this is saying, why would you do all of that? But remember, we're trying to mitigate all the moisture and humidity that's going to be coming from the room. And so sealing every possible joint, every corner, every crevice, and so all of the outlets. On the outlets that we'd already put in, because we couldn't get to them on that back wall that shares the shop wall, she went in and put a little foam insulation in the outlet box itself. Not so much that we can't get the outlets in, because that would be a hassle.
So maybe you guys can see that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we may have to trim a little of that out just to get the outlet, because the box is really designed to hold the outlet in place. But anything that's extra, it just a razor blade cuts that stuff out of the way.
There's Whitney.
Taking over the red guard. I think what's left for the outside is we're gonna put up full sheets of OSB today. We won't finish it today, but then we'll end up cutting the pieces that need to be cut. And while you finish up the red guard inside, got a little bit of dust.
Yeah.
And then I think you're painting on Monday, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
I think we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. We have come so far, and especially today, we are getting so much done.
Another cleanup day.
Every day.
Up a little on my side. That's pretty good. All right.
So we're using screws to attach this OSB,
Yep,
and there's a specific reason for that.
there is. When we did the back wall, we nailed the OSB onto the frame. These we're going to use screws primarily so in 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months, just sort of periodically through the first year. Check moisture. See what it's like in the summer, see what it's like. We can just pull a panel off. And if we ever run into an issue, then at least we know we can pull it off, pull out the insulation, see what we need to do if we can mitigate that any further. But hopefully, I mean, we're doing a lot of great things. Humidifier, exhaust,
Yeah.
the heat and everything else. We've left a gap from the wall in the shop of about 6 inches, plus an air gap behind that so that the air can flow back there. So, because we don't want an unhealthy environment for the humans. If you get moisture buildup in your walls and you ignore it, you can develop some unhealthy molds.
Yeah.
And, obviously we don't want that to be the case
Yeah. Definitely don't want
for anybody who's up here.
that. Yeah. I think it's all going to be perfect.
Me hope so.
Me hopes. After helping Kelly with the OSB, I got back to work on the red guard. Whitney and I finished it up in a little less than an hour, and then we let it dry for the next day and a half. A couple days later, Bridget and I started painting. We went with white just to keep it simple. It felt a little surreal that we were at this point. The last few weeks of construction really flew by, and we are so close to finishing the build.
You're looking a little painty.
I am a little painty, yeah. As you guys can see, this sweater is now a paint sweater. It's now a working sweater.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think it's all over the back too. But we've made so much progress, it's totally worth it to destroy a sweater for it. But I think that's the video. We've got a couple more coats of paint, maybe one more coat to do before we're totally done in there. And then we're going to do electrics, put up some of the lights, And we actually also painted the doors. So next time you see the place, the doors are going to be hanging. Hopefully we'll have some track lighting up and that kind of thing. But I think in the next video, we're going to be building an awesome shelf to put all the aquariums on. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. How are you feeling, Bridget? We've done so much.
I'm a little tired.
Yeah,
How are you?
pretty good. We started this video with just the frames of walls,
It's crazy.
and now we're finishing off having put the first couple of coats of paint on. So feels pretty great.
We're almost done, guys. Soon you'll get back to your regular fish content again.
Yes, soon, soon, I swear. So we just got done building this awesome aquarium rack behind me. Basically, we broke down a pre-existing rack, reinforced all of the individual shelves, and then completely built the whole thing back up from scratch. And I'm really excited to show you guys how we did it. I'm Lucas, and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Let's get started. So I'm here with Kelly and Bridget today, and this is the shelf that we're going to be turning into the ultimate aquarium rack, basically. But it does need quite a bit of work. And I'm no building expert, but luckily, Kelly
I know
is.
people. I know people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we know you.
Yeah. So what our goal today will be to take it apart, basically deconstruct most of it, and then measure and rebuild inside the shop because we can't even fit it in as such. But we're gonna need a lot more stabilizing and weight bearing. So we'll sister some boards on the posts. We'll put some, I don't know, for lack of a better word, supports, rafter supports underneath each shelf to distribute weight.
Currently with the construction, all of the weight is right here on the kind of screw point.
Yeah. And we're gonna lose one of the shelves up at the top.
I want to make the bottom not so rickety.
What's your question? Well, I think what we're going to do is part of what we will do is put some kind of cross piece across the back to keep it from having it, any kind of sway. But I think we probably will mount two against the back wall, two screws against the back wall, just to give it some stabilization from wanting to tilt forward at all. You want to come in the shop a minute? We'll mount it a little bit to this wall. The first shelf will be obviously above the outlets, so if something happens, we need to get to the outlets, we can do that. Those are in place now as well.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And we've got the exhaust fan
Yeah,
totally set up now.
yeah.
So-
There will be that plug that's there will have a detector for humidity. And so it will kick on as needed based on the humidity in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
coming along, I think we're ready.
Yeah, it really is looking like a room in here. And I told you guys in the last video that you'd see some doors. So there's a door, and then there's a door over here.
Yeah.
And this
it's-
one's even got a doorknob.
It's not quite finished, but gotta make a few adjustments to get the doorknob to close, hit the striker plate just right. And you know, I'm not a professional builder. There are plenty of YouTube channels out there to show you how to hang doors. Thankfully, I know a guy. And so Shaw came, hung the doors. I messed that door up. So what a guy. Came back at 7:30 last night and rehung the door.
Wow.
Shaw, St. Shaw.
There's an inside.
And you always want somebody who's a little OCD when you need a level plumb
Here, let
door.
me just check it for the 11th time.
Yeah, yeah.
11 of 27 check. Yeah, that's where you want to be, right there.
Awesome. Well, yeah, if I'm sure if you guys have been following along, you've seen that we're not a professional building channel, but we're showing you exactly how we're doing things. So,
You can learn from our mistakes.
yeah.
So if you have some grit and the desire to DIY your own fish room, you can watch this. If you're looking for a professional fish room, this is not the one. But if you're on a budget and you want to DIY your own fish room, this is the series for you.
Yeah, and even my buddy Shaw said we have done a great job dealing with all the humidity. Matt, shout out to Matt Forsyth too, who he's in Ohio, but anyway, wherever he is back east, has given a lot of tips remotely, and he's said we've done just fine. We've done a good job. So for the time we've had, for the skill level that we are, you know, I
Yeah.
think we've managed pretty well.
I think we're doing pretty good.
We built a room.
Yeah, we built a room.
And you and I knew nothing.
That's true, and we still kind of know nothing. We learned a
I
little
think you know a lot now.
now.
I think you know a lot.
All right, well, let's take that energy into building the shelf.
Right on. Let's go.
We wanted to reinforce all of the shelves and rebuild the side supports. So the first thing that we had to do was completely take apart the rack. It was a little bit dicey, but we used some clamps to hold up the shelves while we started removing the screws.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, if this ends in a hospitalization, you'll see what happened. Ready? All right. I think you're gonna have to take your clamps off.
Do you want to
So-
do your end first?
Okay.
Down?
Maybe that's a good idea.
And then... There you go.
Ah!
Ah! Success.
So we'll just set this one out of the way, and the other ones we probably will go ahead and set in. Yeah, let's just set it on. No, we're gonna need those 2x4s. Maybe back up a little bit. That's good.
All right. These shelves are about 8 feet long and 2 feet deep. The other 3 were pretty easy to remove using our clamp method. So we're doing this so that we can easily take the shelves off and they don't just fall and destroy the shelf or us.
Us being the key factor there.
Yep. Okay.
I think once we get this off.
Action. Yeah. Like now. Shouldn't
I'm just trying to get a screw out. Not very exciting, really.
Well, I feel like we already talked about that in the intro.
That we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. With the rack disassembled, we started attaching the bracing. Kelly cut the pieces to size on the saw, while Bridget and I screwed them into place. We went with 4 on the bottom 2 shelves, which would be weight
There you
bearing,
go.
but didn't bother with any bracing for the top shelf, because it's just going to be for storage.
Yo. Okay.
Right now we are attaching some studs to the wall. We're gonna kind of build the shelf onto these studs that are in the room. So we're constructing it in here because it's impossible to build it outside and then move it in here. But this is also just gonna make it more stable in the long run. And it'll be exactly where we want it. Nothing goes exactly to plan, and this build was no exception. We were attaching these studs to the baseboards and the 8-foot header that we framed inside the wall. But it took us a little bit to find it, so we ended up making a few extra holes in the wall. It wasn't a huge problem, and eventually we found our mark. Yeah, I don't think so, actually. Everything has gone perfectly so far.
As planned.
As planned, as measured.
I love it when a plan comes together. You got 4-inch screws, sir? And then watch this magic.
Always.
Look at this magic. Like out of the blue.
All right, Kelly, can you tell us what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So we've got our posts framed against the wall. We don't have the front pieces in place yet or the shelf. Before we put those on and put them in place, we're going to cut supports to go under the frame and under the plywood to hold the weight along with the screws, so that the screws aren't the only thing holding all the weight that's bearing down from the tanks. Going to be very sturdy. And since we're doing 4 corners at least, we're going to cut 4 pieces at a time. They're all the same height. We'll cut our 4 pieces. We're going to sister them to the posts and the corners, and lots of good support.
It's going to be good.
For your protection.
So those boards that Kelly is cutting right now, these aren't the exact ones, but this is just an example. So we basically have kind of a little cross piece down here. So the longer board is going to be right up against the top, and then we'll have what is called like a sister board right here, and they'll be kind of drilled together and into this board so that we're super, super stable. We set up the sistered boards against the studs first, so that we can more easily maneuver the first shelf into place. This let us place the shelf on legs at the back while we attach the front supports. We just finished the first shelf.
First shelf, minus the front posts, but we are secure.
Yeah, it's working. This is called a sister. Is that
Well, we
right?
sistered 2 boards together.
Yeah.
That's basically what that's called. It's a leg, but what we've done is we've sistered these 2 boards together to give it strength under the 2x4 running here, but also under the plywood, that 3/4 inch plywood that's sitting on in the back. And we did that on 4 corners and the front. And I think, and we did in the back too. So we've got 6 supports plus the corners. I think we're not going to have a problem with the weight of the tanks.
Yeah, and we're currently sit testing it, so it should be perfect.
Yeah, so I'm 150. I was in high school, so all of our weight together is probably like
We're maybe
275.
Yeah, 400 at the most between the 3 of us. Attaching the second shelf was the easiest. We did the same method of attaching the sistered boards to the studs in the back, and then using those to keep the shelf steady as we attached the other supports. At this point, we also attached 2 8-foot boards to the front of the shelves for further support. How you guys feeling?
Like we're gonna finish the shelf today.
We're gonna finish it today.
Check out the supports. So these aren't all complete, but we've got support for this cross piece. And then inside, underneath, we've got supports for the plywood. We're gonna have that on 4 corners. And I think we'll do the center on this board, but this one won't get those supports because the top shelf's just gonna be storage, if I understand correctly.
You understand correctly.
Let's get it done.
Let's do it. The third shelf got a little bit crazy. We started out using our clamp method from before, but we ended up getting Kelly to hold the shelf in place with his legs, while Bridget and I drilled it into place. So it's a couple days later, and as you can see, the aquarium rack is done. So we pretty much finished it in one day, which is awesome. Luckily, we didn't have to build it completely from scratch. As you saw, we basically built around these shelves and kind of reinforced them, and then totally redid the side beams. But I think it turned out really well, honestly. I'm pretty stoked about it. It was a little bit crazy to get this top shelf up. I think in the time lapse, you could probably see Kelly was literally laying on this with his feet in the air, holding it up while Bridget and I put it into place. But luckily, this top shelf isn't going to be load bearing at all, so we didn't have to reinforce it. It's just going to be a place where I can kind of throw lightweight things that need a little bit of a place to live in the studio. So my plan for the top of the shelves is that I'm going to put some neoprene mats basically over the entire thing, just some black neoprene. And that'll make it so that I don't have to worry about individual self-leveling mats for the aquariums that live here, and it will also just make this look a little bit nicer. And I think in the long run, I'm gonna get some sort of kind of front face for this, just so it looks a little bit better for filming and that kind of thing. I could just paint it. We'll see. I'm kind of still in the thinking phase for this, but some sort of facing to make it look better. But this was kind of the final step that I wanted to do before moving the aquariums in here. Having this shelf in the room like this, once I get the neoprene mats on, is just gonna make it so easy to get all of the aquariums in here. I'll be able to just break them down, move them straight onto the shelf, and pretty much be done with it. There are a few other things that I'm gonna do, like I'm gonna set up a rain barrel in here so that I can have water that's basically to temp for all of the aquariums as I move them. I've got a whole plan of exactly how I'm gonna do things, and I think I'm going to get one other shelf in here before that as well. But all of that is going to be in the next video. So I was recently told by my landlord that I have to move all of my aquariums out of my garage studio. That was roughly 5 weeks ago. And in that 5 weeks, we have built a whole new aquarium room out in my in-laws' property in this huge workshop. And it has been a crazy experience. The last 5 weeks have totally flown by. And I have 1 week left to move all of my aquariums out of this room. So in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I do that. Some of the aquariums I'm going to have to totally tear down and it's gonna be kind of sad, like this one here. There's no way that I can move this all on its own. But a lot of them I'm gonna be able to drain and then kind of move on their own. And you're gonna see all of that. This is gonna take all week. So today is day 1. Let's get started. So if you've been following the channel, you can see that already my studio does look quite a bit different. There was an aquarium here that was full of plants and fish, and that's already out of the new studio and it's full of water. No substrate or anything, but it's going to be a holding tank for some fish that we're going to move today. And also, I've torn down this tank and this tank over here. And also there used to be a big metal shelf right over here in this corner, and that's also already out at the new studio. So I have been doing a little bit of kind of pre-moving before starting to move the fish. But I'm excited to show you how much the space has progressed as well, because we have some nice track lighting up there. We have covers on all the outlets. It's actually looking like a really completed space. So I'm excited to show you guys that in this video as well. But the first aquarium that we're going to move is down here. So this is my main storage tank. Usually in the studio, I just keep this for throwing plants in that I'm not currently using. But at the moment, it's full of a whole bunch of fish from the aquariums that I broke down that I just showed you. And it's also full of a lot of plants that I saved from those aquariums. So yeah, this is gonna be the first tank that we move. And luckily I have Bridget, my wife, helping me today. So the two of us will be able to pick this up. But it's actually gonna be pretty light. I'm gonna take all of the plants out of here, get them in a bucket, then I'm gonna drain the water a bit, remove the hardscape and things, and then catch out all of the fish. And I've also got this filter here. So when I move the fish and the plants and everything, I'm gonna bring this as well. And I already have a tank set up at the studio that's full of water, my empty 25-gallon tank. So I'll be able to put this filter straight onto that tank and then start acclimating the fish to the well water at the studio. So it should be a pretty seamless process. I won't have to worry about getting this tank set back up as quickly as I possibly can. But for now, I'm gonna empty this whole tank, catch all the fish. All right, so the tank is all broken down. Got the plants in here with a little paper towel on top just to keep everything wet, and they are in a few inches of water. And over here, you'll have to trust me, the fish are in here. A bunch of duckweed just kind of came along with the net when I was catching them. But in the long run, that'll probably make them feel a little bit safer for the travel. Now we just gotta pack everything up into the car. So here is the fish bucket. This lid is loose at the moment, so we are just gonna tape it down just to be sure. We're basically just preventing splashes during the travel. right, so we're here. And it's actually kind of crazy to have fish in the new fish room. But I've also got that old filter that was on the storage tank running on this tank now. And for those of you who are familiar with the channel, this empty tank used to be my nature aquarium. So yesterday I brought it here into this space and filled it with water so that when I got to this step today, it'd be super easy to just get the filter started on it while I acclimate the fish to the new water here. Because we are on a well here, and my last place was on city water. So the parameters between here and the bucket that the fish are in are going to be quite a bit different. So I am going to take some time to acclimate them properly. And to acclimate them, I'm just going to be taking water in this jug here, just a little bit at a time. That's maybe a cup and a half for this 5-gallon bucket, and I'll just pour it in slowly, just like that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do a few other things. I'm gonna toss all of the plants into this tank that I brought along with me. And I'm also going to start slowly filling up this tank here, because the plan is that tomorrow I'm gonna take all of the fish out of the Rainbow Riverbed, and then they will transfer into here with their filter, just like I'm doing for the other tank. But I've also got one other thing I'm gonna do while all of these processes are happening, and that's gonna be to test the hardness and to do another test strip, just to be sure. In a previous video, when I tested the well water here, you guys told me probably a good idea to use the proper test kit. So I am gonna do this. I had one of these laying around, so it's perfect. And it'll be a good use of my time while all of this happens. So I'll let you guys know soon what the results of this test are. So I did just get done doing a bunch of testing. I did another one of these test strips. Basically, this is testing for like iron and copper primarily, but it also does a bunch of things like the general hardness and carbonate hardness and pH. Not the most accurate thing, but it is showing 0 on iron and copper, which is the thing that I care most about with these tests. I did one of these before though, and when I did it previously, I didn't see any general hardness or carbonate hardness, but when I did a test strip today, I did see a little bit. So I then tested with the API, GH, and KH test kit, and I did find about 89 parts per million general hardness, and I think it was 4 degrees carbonate hardness. So it's a little bit lower than I want for shrimp, but I did get this shrimp mineral. So this stuff is supposed to be really good. It's like a GH and KH booster, so general hardness and carbonate hardness. And I'll need to do a little bit of research and reading to figure out exactly how much I need to add to like a 5-gallon bucket, essentially, to basically just bring the GH and KH up just a little bit to where I want. So I think that's kind of my next task is while everything is filling and while the fish are acclimating, I'm going to do a little bit of research and figure out what I need here. But in the meantime, basically just have to wait for the fish to acclimate and for this tank to fill. So I'll bring you back in a minute. All right, so I've given the fish a good hour acclimating to this water, taking some out of the bucket, pouring it into the tank, from the tank into the bucket, etc. So should be at the same temperature, should be at the same parameters. I think we're good to add them in. There we go. Yeah, they're not super colored up in the moment. They're probably going to be freaking out a little bit since they've been in the bucket. But hopefully given some time, they'll be totally fine. All right, let's get some more of them. All right, here is clementine and some cardinals. There we go. Here's Phil, the Bolivian ram. Go. Yeah, they're all looking a little freaked out, but that is to be expected. It's one of the Corys. There we go, the last Cory. All right, so that's all the fish in here. And understandably, they are pretty decolored and freaking out a little bit, with the journey here and their new environment. So we'll leave them alone for a little bit and we can check on them later because we're gonna come back here today. So hopefully they're gonna be okay. I'm keeping an eye on them. Most of them are hiding at the moment, which is understandable. This tank is also totally full now, so I think we're done here for the moment. We can head back home. So we're back in the studio, and these 2 cubes are the next 2 tanks that we're gonna take. And actually, I haven't shown this tank on the channel yet. Basically, I finished scaping this tank like the day before I got the news I was gonna have to move the whole studio. So I really wanna keep it together, and it has been running for quite a while now. Maybe a month and a half, something like that. So I really want to try to keep it together if possible. So the plan for this one is to completely drain it. And then I've got this kind of foam over here that I'm going to put around the edges to make sure that if anything does shift when we pick it up and put it in the car, then nothing is going to crash into the glass. And this is the low-tech Iwagumi. I think it's looking super cool right now with the Hygrophila angustifolia growing out of the top and these purple flowers that are coming off of it. I'll try to keep those intact when we're moving the tank, but we'll see. I can always grow some more if they end up coming out. But this tank is mostly shrimp, but there's also 3 clown killifish in here. So I think what I'm gonna be able to do is basically drain this to a couple of inches, remove the 3 larger rocks, and then it should be no problem to pick this up and move it, keeping the shrimp and the fish in here. They should be totally fine for 45 minutes in the tank with that little water. First things first, I'm gonna drain the new tank that's behind me right now, and then we'll get to this one. So I decided to catch out the killifish and just get them in this bag just to make their trip a little bit easier because I did want to get the water, pretty low to move this tank successfully. But they're in here, safe and sound, and now we just gotta pack up the car and go back to the studio. Right, so the tanks are here. It was actually not that hard to get them in the car, lift them up between 2 people, totally doable. And yeah, we left all the hardscape in this one, didn't have to do anything about that. We did take the 2 bigger rocks out of the little Iwagumi here though, just to make it easier. I mean, it's easy enough to take the rocks out, easy enough to put them back in. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna put the rocks back in here and I'm gonna get all of the equipment set up on these tanks, like the filters and the heaters, just so that I can make it really easy to just turn everything on once the tanks are full. At this point, I am going to be remineralizing some water for this tank because the GH and the KH here, as I said before, are just a little bit low. But I'll show you that when I get there. First things first, I'm just gonna get the equipment ready. All right, so that first tank is done. This tank is gonna take a little bit longer though. You can see I've already got the bucket set up here for when I eventually fill it and start slowly adding water. Adding the water slowly like this when I get there is essentially going to be acclimating the shrimp to the new water. And I've got this bucket here. You can see I'm stirring it. That's because there's a heater in this bucket and I'm trying to bring it up to the temperature that I want the shrimp to be at. Because I filled up my main water bucket earlier today and that water was at like 50 degrees. So quickly bringing this 5 gallons up to temperature. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to add the shrimp mineral here because I need to come up about 2 degrees KH and around in the ballpark of like 50 parts per million GH. Well, according to my calculations, it's going to be about 1 scoop from here into the bucket to increase 5 gallons of water by 2 degrees KH. But what I'm going to do is basically add this in, let it, get into the water, and then I'm just gonna test the hardness and the carbonate hardness again, just to make sure that it's where I want. I'll let you guys know if I run into any problems with that, but otherwise, I think I'm just gonna focus on this and get this project done because it is getting late in the day. We'll check in on this tank tomorrow. So that's the end of day 1. See you for day 2. So it's day 2. And today I have to tear down this tank. So I'm not gonna lie, I do feel a little bit sentimental tearing this tank down. A lot of you guys are here because you saw this tank in the thumbnail and you decided to click on it. So I really associate this tank with starting the momentum of the channel. So yeah, a little bit sad about that. But it's gonna be a whole lot of work to tear this down and to try to save as many plants as possible. But at the end of it, when we have it in the new space, it is gonna be really, really fun to scape. So I can at least look forward to that. But let's enjoy together one last feeding of the fish in this aquarium. There's no easy way to go about this, but basically what I'm going to do is just start tearing things out. I'm going to save all of the plants as best I can. And I am kind of excited to see the plants when they're out of the tank, just huge bundles of grass essentially, and lots of Anubias and Bucephalandra. It will be cool to see. And there's some big Anubias in here that I'm excited to pull out and really look at how much it's grown. I think I'm just gonna get straight into it. So I'm about to start pulling out the 2 giant Anubias that I have in here. So let's see if we can get the first one. I do expect these to be pretty well rooted into the substrate. So I kind of set them up, kind of balanced in a way where their rhizome was out, but their roots could go and find the substrate. And I do find that that really makes Anubias grow super well. Let's look at this one. It's pretty awesome. And the other one is even bigger. Let me grab that one. But I have found that if you let your Anubias root into the substrate, it just grows so well. It used to be like the size of an average Anubias barteri. I think I got it from Aquarium Co-op like a year and a half ago, something like that. And look at it. Absolutely crazy. I think it having access to a lot of nutrients in the substrate, look at those roots, all that white was growing into the substrate and all the green is exposed. I think, allowing it to do that for this one and the other one, it kind of converted them to a different type. And yeah, I'm not totally sure about that, but this is kind of why too, in my opinion, buying especially like Anubias and like epiphyte plants like this, it's almost like an investment. Like as long as you keep it alive, which Anubias is really easy to keep alive, it'll just keep growing. And it's so cool. This is, seeing this and holding it in my hands is a little bit of a silver lining, you know, to tearing this tank apart. All right, back to it. So I just turned the filter back on to just start clearing the water. You can see it's just running there. And as I've said before, the filter is going to be traveling with the fish to the new studio, but I just want to clear up the water a little bit, give the fish a little bit of a break while I start organizing the plants. So here is everything that I've harvested, and it's kind of crazy to look at. I've been organizing it a little bit. You can see there's some smaller clumps of dwarf sag and Sagittarius subulata, and then I've started organizing the longer jungle val over here. And then this is the Hygrophila angustifolia. There's some of it mixed in with this big pile here. This is kind of what I need to go through. Just separate it out, start making bundles and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's a bit of a project. I don't know if I'll save all of it. I'm probably gonna pick through, try to save the best, and then I might just have to throw away some of it. But it's not the worst thing in the world. It's still quite the harvest. And then I've got this little pile here of some bucephalandras and Anubias nanas. But check this one out. It's especially nice. I really enjoy this one. And then over here, I'm just keeping these nice and wet because they do dry out quickly, but the two big pieces of Anubias. And here's all of the hardscape that I saved from the tank. Got these two big pieces of manzanita that I'm really excited to reuse. Here's another one. But I'm also happy to see that this cottonwood that I foraged locally is still holding up really well. It's still nice and hard, not softed or anything. I was a little bit nervous about this stuff, of whether or not I was going to be able to reuse it, but it hasn't broken down at all. But also tons of sweet rocks, but I'm gonna deal with all of this later. For now, I'm gonna work on these plants, organizing them and getting them into a bucket for travel. And I think while I do this, I am also going to start draining the water slowly from that tank because it is gonna take a while. So let's get to work. Here's everything that I threw away. It was just getting to be too much to go through. And in here, keeping it all wet with paper towels, here's everything that I am saving. You'll be able to see it a little bit better once we get it out of here and into the holding tank. But I ran out of plant weights, so basically what I did is I just rubber banded around the roots of the plants and then rubber banded a rock to it. It was a little bit more time consuming, but I think it's worth it. You know, it'll make sure that these sink properly in the holding tank, and so it'll be a more kind of natural environment for the fish without just a bunch of grasses, you know, floating around the top. And hopefully it will be better for the plants as well. But I've got a little bit of water just in the bottom of this bucket and then these wet paper towels that are going on top. So it should be totally fine for the drive. I'm basically gonna have a little bit of lunch now, and then I'm gonna go back to the tank and start catching the fish. So I'm about to start catching the fish, but I just wanna show you one thing really quick. So I've just got this sponge filter going in this little bucket, and it's been running like this since yesterday basically, but I'm just using this to transport the fish a little bit more safely. Basically, I'm just having this in the bucket with them while they make the drive, and I've just got it hooked up to like a little adapter in my car so that I can actually like plug it in properly. But doing this just make sure that the fish have that little bit of extra oxygen, and it definitely helps, I think, with safer travel. But after I catch all of the fish out of here, they're gonna go in this bucket along with that sponge filter. So here is the bucket with all of the fish. That actually did not even take me that long. It took me maybe like 15, 20 minutes to catch all the fish. So pretty fast, all things considered. And you can see I've got the sponge filter in there going. And I'm going to keep it covered when we're driving, and I'll tape it shut. But that airline here is gonna make sure that it stays nice and oxygenated in there and hopefully reduce stress as much as possible. And whenever you're breaking down an aquarium, I generally will leave some water in it for like a few hours at least, maybe even like a day, just to make sure that you didn't miss any fish, because that can happen really easily. And I mean, today I'm on a time crunch anyway, now that I've got the fish in the bucket, but I'm gonna give this a really thorough look when I come back to the house later to just make sure I didn't miss anyone. At this point, I'm just gonna get everything into the car and head off to the new studio. So I'll see you there. So I just got here. The fish are down in this bucket, the plants are down here, and this is the tank that they're gonna go into. So at this point, you can kind of see my system, bringing the fish along with their filter, the tank that I set up the day before. And if I had more fish and more tanks, I could, continue this process. But these are the two main fish moves that I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, so far so good. All of the fish in the tank behind me, I checked on them. I checked on everything before sitting down to film. And all of the fish and the shrimp that I moved yesterday are looking totally perfect. Makes me really happy to see. I think I am gonna go around and just do a little bit of water testing and probably add just a little bit of beneficial bacteria to all of the tanks, which I forgot to do yesterday, just to double check, that everything is totally fine. And I'm going to do that while I start acclimating these fish here. So I think that went just about as well as it could. The fish are still freaking out quite a bit, but some of the rainbow fish already have some decent color coming back, like Walter, you can see him swimming there. I think when I come back to check on this tank tomorrow, I'm gonna see plenty of vibrant colors and it's all gonna be good. But I do have two filters going on this, the sponge that was, I've been using for travel, and then also of course the canister filter that I brought with me. And there is a lid on top, which is kind of like 90% closed. I just have to leave it open a little bit for the filter. But I do have the outlet raised up a little bit, just so I'm really agitating the top of the water, because this tank is definitely overstocked, but it won't be for that long. I'm planning to make a home for these guys first thing out of all of the projects that I plan for the future. But the next thing we have to do is move that big tank into this room. So that's gonna be day 3. This is the end of day 2, my last project for the day. So I've gotta go home and basically clean up that tank, take all of the substrate out of it and everything and prepare for it to be moved. But I will save you guys the immense amount of cleaning I have to do when I get home. I'll bring you guys back tomorrow for day 3 when we move that 80-gallon aquarium. It's the morning of day 3, and as you can see, last night I finished cleaning out this tank. I also cleaned out the stand down below and everything. And yeah, it's ready to be moved. So that's what we're doing today. I'm basically ready to go. I'm just waiting on Kelly and Andrew to come over, and then Bridget and I are gonna, with the 4 of us total, move the tank onto Kelly's truck, and we're gonna use moving blankets and that kind of thing to protect it. And then we're gonna move the stands onto the truck as well. So yeah, I'm kind of just twiddling my thumbs and waiting for now. See you in a minute when Kelly and Andrew get here. Kelly and Andrew showed up and we started loading the tank. This tank weighs a little under 200 pounds, so with 4 people, it was pretty easy. We got it into the truck and packed it in with some moving blankets. We loaded the stand right next to it, which barely fit, with about an inch between the tank and the stands. We strapped everything in and hit the road. At the new studio, we unloaded the stand and then the tank. Overall, it was a pretty smooth operation. All right, another task accomplished. This is feeling really good. And this was kind of weighing on my mind, moving this big tank in here, but actually pretty easy to do with 4 people in a truck. So super happy with this. Tomorrow, which is going to be day 4, I'm going to be moving a couple of the smaller tanks on my own and maybe doing a little bit of moving kind of stuff for the studio. And I think tomorrow I might also show you a little bit more of some of the things that have changed over the last few days in the studio itself. Give you a little bit of kind of like an updated tour, because we've gotten some cool things like covers on the outlets, trim on the doors. I'll give you guys a little bit more of a look at, just around the place. So that's tomorrow. This is the end of day 3. See you on day 4. So it's day 4, and it's crazy to not have this huge tank here anymore. It feels super weird just in the studio in general, honestly. I guess this isn't really the studio anymore. It's more of just the garage. But today's gonna be a little bit of an easier day for me. I'm just going to be moving this little tank down here and then the desktop aquarium here. So for both of these tanks, I'm just going to be draining them down to like a couple of inches, putting them in the car, just packing them really well with towels, and then driving off to the new studio. I'm also gonna take a few other things, so I'm gonna pack up the car a little bit, and then I'm gonna start draining these tanks down and packing them in. All right, back to the studio. Success. I've got both the tanks in here. So now, obviously, I need to fill them up and slowly acclimate them to the well water, as I've been doing with the other tanks. And for both of these tanks, that means adding some of this shrimp mineral. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing as I did before, just a scoop of this for a 5-gallon bucket. And then I think I'm going to set up some buckets up here, up top, just a couple small ones, so I can slowly drip acclimate both of these tanks. And then I can do some other stuff, while that's happening. So that's the plan. Check it out. I've got my bucket of the well water that's been a little bit remineralized with the shrimp mineral up here. And then I've got a drip line going here, a pretty fast drip. And with this one, I'm probably going to increase it, as time goes on, because this is a pretty big amount of water, but it's a fairly fast drip. And this water is going to be a little bit colder at the moment than the room temperature. So I also want to give it, some time to get to the right temperature. Yeah, now that that's done, I'm going to putter around here a little bit, check on all of the fish. And then I want to show you guys some of the cool things that we've been doing in this room to really do like the finishing touches. So the tanks are filling up nice and slow, acclimating the fish and the shrimp at the right pace. And while that's happening, I want to show you guys a little bit around the room because it's gotten a lot nicer since you last really took a close look at it. So for starters, light switch. And it takes a little bit to kind of turn back on. Hopefully they come back on. There we go. So there might be a little something weird with the wiring up there, but that's a Kelly problem. I'll probably just tell him about that. But yeah, and we can dim and increase the lights. So that's pretty cool. And as you can see, the lights up above are track lighting. We've got 2 big strips, and we're gonna tidy those wires a little bit, but it's just not like a pressing issue for now. But yeah, so really good lighting in here. I'm pretty happy. And as you can see over here, yesterday we put up this little coat rack, which I'm currently just hanging some towels on. And then Bridget put up this little ceramic fish picture up here. So it's already getting a little bit of art. I'm looking forward to getting more of her art on the walls in here. And then this big trash can here, this is actually full of water. And I think I mentioned this to you guys, but I'm basically just doing this to have water that's room temperature. Just to make it easier to fill up the tanks, because when it comes out of the well, it's like 50 degrees-ish, if not lower. And so just having a bucket of water here that's constantly getting up to temperature is just gonna make my life a whole lot easier. And I'm planning to kind of rig a system where I can pump water out of this and into the other tanks. I just haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'll probably show that to you guys in a future video whenever I have that set up. But also, do you notice anything different about the doors? There's trim. So we were kind of setting this up over the last few days. Kelly and I kind of measured it together, and then he cut all of it, and then Bridget and I painted all of it. And now Kelly put it up on the walls around the door. So yeah, it looks really good. But it is funny how these little touches like that really make the space feel finished. And it seems like a project like this is never going to be totally finished, but it's there, honestly. It's kind of crazy to say that and to be at this point moving everything in. All right, mission accomplished. The tanks are here, and they are both a little bit colder than I want them to be, by just like a few degrees, basically. But the room temperature in here right now is 71. So I think I'm not going to add heaters to these tanks. I'm just gonna let them come up to temperature naturally. And I actually decided to remove the heaters from the tanks down below as well, because it's 71 in this room. That is perfectly fine for some shrimp, especially. And I think the little exclamation point rasboras in here will be totally fine at that temperature as well. That marks the end of day 4. This was probably the easiest day, honestly, just moving a couple tanks by myself. And at this point, we only have 1 tank left to move, but I honestly think it's going to be the most difficult tank. So I'm really not looking forward to it, to be honest with you. I might be in denial that I'm gonna have to take it down. I'm gonna have Bridget helping me tomorrow to move it, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. So I'll see you guys for the final day, day 5. So it's later at night, still on the 4th day, and Bridget and I were just having some dinner, and we figured, screw it, we've got time tonight, let's finish moving this tank, just get it done and out of the way. It's gonna be a late one tonight. Let's get to it. Moving this tank got sketchy fast. First, we drained it down to just a couple inches of water, then I covered the plants with some wet paper towels. Then we tried to lift it. Even a few inches of water weighs quite a bit in a 20-gallon tank, not to mention the hardscape, so this was difficult. I wanted to keep the fish in the tank while moving, because I would have to tear the scape apart to get them out. And either way, the fish would get stressed out, either from being caught in a net and transported in a bucket, or by being in the tank while we moved it. We tried to get the tank into the back seat of the car, but we couldn't get it safely onto the seat, so we had to put it down in the front yard and reassess. From here, we managed to get it just barely into the back of the car. At the new studio, we got Andrew to help us get it onto the shelf. The hardest part was lifting the tank up to shoulder level, but between the three of us, we made it happen. So it's the next day, and as you can see, moving this tank was a success. Oh, but there's Frankie. You can see right in the front, the Pleco. It's so nice to have this tank at eye level, actually. It's like seeing it completely differently than I was before, because it was on the ground and just, I love this tank, and it was annoying to look at, so I really didn't enjoy that, but it looks great here. It's right at eye level. This is gonna be so much fun to watch all the time in the new studio. But sitting in here now, I really can't believe that we did this. Going from getting the news 6 weeks ago to this. Building a room and moving all of the aquariums in here, it really just feels crazy, you know, that we made this happen. And we actually made it happen with 2 days to spare. But now the real work begins. I brought a bunch of stuff in my car today, so I'm gonna start organizing and beautifying this space and really starting to make it my own. But I've got a bunch of tanks to scape now. So yeah, it kind of feels like I'm starting over in this studio a little bit. But honestly, at this point now, I'm really excited for what's to come for the channel and for this space. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you go subscribe to the channel so that you guys can see what I'm doing next, what tanks I'm scaping, the projects I'm working on, and all of that. And while you're there, make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it. But before I go, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for watching this process and me building all of this and following along. It means a lot to me, all the support that you've given me throughout this whole journey. And I just want to give a particular thanks to my in-laws, Kelly and Whitney, and my brother-in-law, Andrew, and of course, my lovely wife, Bridget. All of them had my back through this whole process, and I absolutely could not have done it without them. But I think that's it for this video. I'm gonna get to work on the room and then start thinking about some new tanks. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.